Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube too, at the Team 980. Again, that's Craig Hoffman with a C. I heard that came up on the Chris Russell Show today. Yeah, there's you guys over there. Russell and AMAC are just hanging out with Anthony over there. What happened? Why couldn't what happened over there?
Basically,
other Mike Anthony.
A bunch of numbers.
That's the one. How many producers does it take to produce Chris Russell?
All right. So a guy named Smith with a bunch of numbers on Twitter tweeted me and said to stop talking politics, that I sound like Greg Hoffman, and that's not a good category. And he said to stop talking politics.
Greg Hoffman. He sounds hideous.
Yes. So your name became Greg Hoffman in fairness, I did ask if we should call you Greg Hoffman, and AMAC said no, and then I did call you Greg Hoffman a couple of times.
I think you should listen to AMAC more and to people with at least 4 digits after their Twitter handle less. That's me caring for you, Chris, and your mental well-being. AMAC's got your back. Smith, 784562 said hut. He doesn't have your back.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
You're probably right. Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, you're welcome, Chase. Anyway, that's me. That's Anthony Haney, producer of the show. We went on a field trip today, Anthony. While Chris was battling Twitter people, we were sitting in very good seats at the Mystics game this afternoon at Eagle Bank Arena.
Yes, sir. We were enjoying ourselves. Chris wants to go on the next field trip, but I don't think that'll be possible.
Yeah, well, we'd have to do a post show. Chris, we could go to a game. We could do a field trip after the show. They typically play at 7:30, not at 11:30 a.m. So this does work.
True.
I'm saying invites there. What courtside Russell? What kind of fit would you pull off, Chris, if you're sitting courtside? What kind of you got to have some nice shoes if you're gonna be on the floor. Anthony and I both went with the Jordan 4s today. We didn't plan that. We just so happened to wear the same shoe in a different colorway.
Oh, he's going out there in the Cole Haans.
Oh, Cole Haans are nice.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing wrong with some Cole Haans. It's look quite comfortable. The sneaker Cole Haans. It's a nice look. I do feel bad for Anthony now that you've taken off your shoe in his studio and he's got to sit in it.
And it's still off though.
Yeah, I know. I have noticed that. I saw we're off to one heck. I talked to Sidney Johnson afterwards. He's the head coach of the team. This is a real show. We do real stuff. But I saw a crazy video from the Tour de France. I promise this has to do with shoes. I promise this makes sense, even in my ADD brain. So dude is biking in the Tour de France, and he changed his bike shoe. He had like an issue or whatever with the shoe, so he unclips the bike from the bike, and now he's like pedaling kind of with one foot, but kind of just resting the other foot on there until he can grab another shoe from a dude in a moving car.
Wow.
And then he takes off the shoe. I guess he took off the shoe first, like exchanged the shoe, and then is able to hook his foot into the new bike shoe, clip back in, and then continue in La Tour de France.
He's practiced that before.
Like, do you?
I guess. He looked like a natural.
Do you practice it just like and hope it goes for the best? And if you drop the shoe, you just go back and pick it up? Do you practice on a stationary bike? You put training wheels on? Like, how are we practicing the shoey deal?
Hey, you're asking the hard-hitting questions.
This is what I do, Anthony. I'm a journalist. Got to find stuff out. I got questions. Anyway, welcome to our radio show. The officiating today wasn't great again. Did we ever look and see if Angel said anything else after the game?
I have not checked her post-game comments.
So in her first game since which by the way, A+ Angel Reese stunt. Basically, so the fines in the WNBA are like a couple $100 because they're some percentage of the average salary, I'm sure, or they're based off the fact that the WNBA doesn't pay their players enough, which is why they're headed for a massive CBA renegotiation and possibly a work stoppage. Hopefully they can figure it out. They have a relatively short season, so they have a long offseason to figure it out without a play stoppage. But point being, the fines are like a couple $100, and Angel Reese makes millions and millions of dollars in endorsements off the court and has now for years, going back to NIL in college, and she continues to make lots of money. And so she like literally doesn't care about the fines and is like, she said, I don't care about the fine, or I'm going to get fined for this. I don't care. They're cheap as bleep. And then said her piece on the officials. And today during the game, she was quite upset at a couple of calls, and she had a right to be. There were some of them that were like, really? But there were also a bunch of calls that got messed up the other way. And it just goes back to the thing I think we've been saying forever about WNBA officiating, that unfortunately, if you go to games and if you watch games on television on a regular basis, you will often come out of the game with the number one takeaway being, man, those officials are not good enough. They are not good at their job. There's also, I have another gripe, though, Anthony, that I would like, officiating adjacent, although not to the officials. And we can talk more about the actual basketball later on. Our interview with Sydney will air at 6:30, and we'll have a little time after to discuss what was a really big win for the Mystics today. They are now within one game of 500 with 3 games to go before the All-Star break. Super clutch free throws by Shakira Austin to win the game after she had an abysmal game at the line prior to that. She wound up 5 for 13 on free throws. But and actually, since Russell's still sitting there, I have an actual sports question because, Chris, our Venn diagram of sports that we are big fans of, there are obviously like the NFL in the middle, but like you have a lot of baseball and hockey knowledge, and I do a lot of soccer and other, NBA, etc. There is a thing in the WNBA, the NWSL does this, I believe the NBA does this, where if a player's under review, they don't show it in the stadium. So the worst place you can be during an official review is at the actual game, and that I think is very stupid. Is the NHL and MLB that way too?
Yeah, a lot of times, because they don't want the crowd influencing the call or the decision that the officials, even though they're in consult with Toronto, the war room in Toronto, like say specifically for the NHL or in baseball back to New York, they don't want the crowd being so influential in terms of what they're seeing and what they're thinking. So yeah, they'll basically put it replay challenge up on the board, and it'll be like a rotating kind of like video board message. So to your point, yeah, they won't actually show it while the decision is being made.
Do you agree that that is incredibly stupid and that like we should trust professional officials to do their job correctly? The replay is the replay, and that you shouldn't be screwing over the 10 to 20 to however many thousands of fans that have been paid to be at the game, that's the worst place they could be in what is inevitably a fairly consequential moment?
No, I totally get your point because, and I guess I never really, I didn't think about it all that much, but I mean, I totally get your point from the standpoint of if you're in the crowd and you've paid all the money that you paid, right? And everybody pays a little something different. You're not getting that full fan experience, number one. Number two, if we're worried about officials being influenced by crowd noise or by crowd moans and groans, well, it's that way for every call, right?
Right.
I mean, I go to a lot of women's soccer games, as you know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the officials, sometimes they make bad calls, sometimes they make good calls, sometimes they are influenced by what they hear in the crowd, and a lot of times they're not. They just block it out.
I feel like sometimes they're influenced the other way.
Professionals be able to block it out.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like they're influenced the other way. They're like, I won't be tainted by the crowd. I will continue to make bad calls against the home team. The NWSL is the worst because they, like at Audi Field, where you're talking about the Spirit, we don't even know what they're looking at. It's like, it's a VAR review. For what? For a red card challenge? Was there a tackle behind the play? Was there a handball in the box? Like, we don't even know. So at least in the NBA and the WNBA, like, because that happened today to us. There was 3 coaches challenges, I think, in the game. And the worst person to be was one of us there without access to a monitor. And I think that's a very silly thing in sports.
I agree. And I do.
Who says we don't ever agree on anything?
I do recall a Spirit game earlier this year that I was at where there was multiple challenges, and I had no idea exactly what they were challenging because they don't announce it, what specifically they are challenging it, and because they don't show it, you don't know what they're actually looking at.
Right. I think, Chris, we should start a support group. Sports Broadcasters for Better Officiating in Sports. I think we'll probably come up with a better name, something with a cool acronym, but we'll workshop that off the air. Chris Russell, everybody, listen to his show 1 to 4 every single day here on the Team 980. Also, now, same place you can listen to all of our shows, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, the podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts. When we get back here on the show, Commanders this hour, including with Lynnell coming up at 4:30. So we have to make sure Russell leaves before Lynnell gets here. Otherwise, they'll fight in the hallway. The point is, we're going to talk about Terry McLaurin's contract situation because I've kind of said all along, like, hey, they got it done in July last time. Last time they got it done on July 5th. It's July 8th. Has that changed how we feel at all? We'll discuss next. the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980. Lynnell Willingham going to join the show coming up in about 10 minutes to talk about what we are going to talk about right now, which is the latest on the Terry McLaurin front, which is there is no news. But we have done, Anthony, since the last time that outside of yesterday, since the last time we had a show, certainly since the last time you and I had a show together, not counting yesterday, because that was a long time ago, is we've passed July 5th. July 5th, important, I guess, because that's the last time Terry McLaurin signed a contract extension. It was July 5th of 2022, I believe it was, and that is the 3-year extension, or the 3 years coming up at the end of this one, where that will expire. So he has 1 year remaining on his deal. Typically, when you're a star player in the league, anyone that it's not obvious your contract is going to expire, and you're like kind of at the end of your road with the current team, you get an extension. That's how this works. It is kind of just how business is done in the league. And we know that the Commanders and Adam Peters are negotiating with Terry because Adam has told us so. The last we saw Terry, where was he? I know he was at the Eastern Conference Finals, and then he posted from somewhere last week. I think he was fishing.
He was in Europe, I'm pretty sure.
And then I think he was in Europe. So, like, Terry doesn't seem super bothered. At least that's what he's putting out on Instagram. You can be in Europe and also bothered by your American football contract, but he has at least not stopped living his life, as he should not. He missed mandatory minicamp, and we're now on the verge of 2-3 weeks away. Camp starts, and are we going to get a holdout or a hold in? I know Kevin did a segment earlier today that was kind of like, are you Team Terry or Team Commanders on this? And what I would say is, I think it's a great idea for sports talk radio because one of the great things we can do if we want to generate calls and rile people up and invoke emotion is, I'm not saying Kevin was doing this to be manipulative, just to be clear, but you want heroes and villains. Like, that makes for better stories. Who's the hero? Who's the villain? And because of that, and because of where we are, I just disagree with the premise that I am team one or the other. I am team get a bleeping deal done. And I don't think it's that hard. I have kind of, but also, of course, what I think Terry's value is and what the team thinks and what Terry thinks or his representation thinks might be 3 totally different numbers, in which case, like, should we just pick the one in the middle and be done? Do you keep negotiating? Like, I just think it's kind of really clear where he fits on the wide receiver hierarchy and kind of how the business goes and what the timeline is for the Commanders. And at that, because I don't know what the offers have been that have been thrown back and forth, it's really hard for me to say, like, I am Team Terry or I am Team Commanders. And on an even deeper level, Anthony, I am like, I don't know what team this puts me on, but them getting a deal done is important. I guess here's what I would say. I feel like it's more important for the Commanders than it is to Terry. And that is not discounting that Terry has somewhere between like $40 and $100 million on the line, right? Terry has not really life-changing money for him in the here and now because he's already signed a big deal. But Terry's great-grandchildren like really care about this deal. And like from a status standpoint, obviously you care about it. It is a big deal. You know, these careers are short. Not that you can't live off the kind of money that Terry's made, especially because I don't think he's the most extravagant person ever. But you certainly, like, not going to sneeze at tens of millions of dollars. And like when I say tens, somewhere north of 40, 50, 60 in terms of the guaranteed money that he's going to get in this deal. But Terry's the exact kind of player that the Commanders in their front office claim that they want. And this has kind of been my thing all along, is like, I just don't understand how this deal isn't getting done because it makes so much deal to get done. Terry is all about all of the things that Dan Quinn and Adam Peters brought to the franchise. The franchise is all about all the things Terry represents. They took to each other extraordinarily well. He was productive on the field. I know he's 30, but it's not like he's 35 or dead. And for those reasons, I feel like it's really important for the Commanders not like, it's important, I guess, for Adam to be like, I'm not going to be a pushover in his first major contract extension. All due respect to Sam Cosmi, which was significant, but not as high profile as this. But also, I think it's important to say, like, we reward guys who do the stuff that we want. And I guess in that way, like, I'm kind of team Terry. But I also think that there's a possibility that the Commanders have offered a perfectly fair contract, and Terry's representation is like, we know how much you need us. We know where fan sentiment is. We're going to hold out for a little bit more. And in that case, I would be team Commanders.
Do you think Jaden's ability to elevate the talent around him sort of kind of hurts Terry in these negotiations? And I'm not saying Terry isn't deserving of a massive contract. I definitely think he is. Finally, got a good quarterback, broke the team franchise record in touchdowns for a season. Like, he is more than deserving now that he has a good quarterback. But do you think Jaden Daniels being here and being able to, do what he did and be as productive as he was last year with guys like Olamide, and it's no shade to the guys that I'm about to mention, but they were like, wide receiver 3s, wide receiver 4s on other teams, and then you come here to Washington and you seem like you could, be a viable option as a wide receiver 2 because, we have this guy in Jaden Daniels kind of thing.
I think that it probably does hurt him a little bit. I think if you ignore how good Terry is, you weren't paying attention. That's kind of how I would answer that, right? Of course, it matters that Jaden can elevate, and they might think that some of the guys they have can produce at a really high level if they're given the opportunities. Terry last year was targeted 117 times. So what happens if you give, Debo's already going to eat into the target share a little bit because there's very specific stuff that's going to be designed for him. And then the problem is part like who else, but like, if you give Gallup and Noah Brown and whatever some of the targets that Terry got that you can get equal production are close enough, like, I guess that's a calculation you can make, but I think Terry made Jaden's job a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Terry proved his value and that, like, all those other guys got to eat in part because Terry occupied real number one receiver type of coverage. Like, teams had to pay attention. And the games that the Commanders were more successful offensively typically were ones that Terry McLaurin had a big impact on. And that's always a funky statistical conversation because it's like, okay, well, why wasn't he more involved in the bad games? Like, is it because he was not open or was he not involved enough in the offense? But, like, when they started to really make an effort to get the ball to him 3 weeks into the season, their whole offense changed. And if you look at some of the underlying data, I just pulled up NFL Pro and did a quick search of receiving EPA, like total EPA, so estimated points added on receptions last year. Terry was second in the league. Now, I will say, Amon-Ra St. Brown was so far away from everybody else, it's a joke. Terry, we played this game a little bit yesterday, Anthony. Terry's 69.4 estimated points added receiving last year. What's Amon-Ra St. Brown? Again, Terry's number 69.4. I'll tell you, Jamar Chase is in third at 66.3.
Amon-Ra, 82.7.
95.1.
Oh, my God.
That is
what?
Absolutely preposterous in terms
95.
of how valuable Amon-Ra St. Brown is. So also to anyone who's like, give him the St. Brown contract. They're different players, but like, y'all got to realize, put some respect on Amon-Ra St. Brown's name. But I think it's worth mentioning. Like, Terry had more touchdowns last year. Bigger yards per reception, in part because Amon-Ra does a lot of work in the slot. Targeted 117 times versus 141. Terry only had 82 catches to St. Brown's 115. But Terry had 1,096 yards. St. Brown 1,263. So yardage-wise, they're 150 yards apart at the end of it all. And Terry ran 58 fewer routes on the season. So point is, like, Terry's awesome. And he should be paid in a way that represents that he's awesome. What that number is I think the number up for dispute. And until I know more about what numbers each side is throwing, it's kind of hard to say what quote-unquote team I'm on. I don't know if that'll stop Lynnell, but he wanted to talk about this, and we started talking a little bit. I was like, you want to know what? You've done it. You booked yourself for 4:30. So Lynnell is going to come in and yap about this next on The Hoffman Show. Lynnell's actually we shouldn't pick on Lynnell. He's actually doing something he needs to do. Right?
Yeah, I think he's trying to get a Comrex.
But like he's had the whole half hour where we've been on the air to do that.
Yeah,
I know sometimes our engineers are very busy doing things they need to do, so I have also played Chase and engineer, and I don't want him to miss out his opportunity. So, well, Lynnell is coming. We'll determine whether or not it's his fault that he's late later, and then we'll make fun of him accordingly, which might be none at all. We might be none at all. Have you had any shifting thoughts, Anthony, on the McLaurin contract situation?
I mean, so I know we had discussed before the show, what day he signed his last contract extension on July 5th. And even while I was in Europe, like, I'm not going to say like I was completely oblivious to everything that was going on, but I did see reports about, Terry McLaurin and the Commanders and the contract disputes. So when July 5th came and, passed, I definitely was a little concerned that the deal hadn't been done. And I quite frankly don't necessarily know how to feel. I feel as though Terry really wants to be here. The Commanders really want him here. And I don't think it takes, this long for two parties that want to, be together to, come to an agreement. But, we do have a couple of weeks until training camp. I do think a deal will get done. I don't think he gets traded. I don't think, there'll be a holdout or hold in. I think they want to avoid that at all costs. So I think a deal will get done. I just don't know, how long and how close to training camp it'll get done.
Yeah. I feel like making super definitive declarative statements without any real information is a good way to wind up on Cold Takes Exposed or to look very silly later. So I'll phrase it this way. I would be stunned if they trade him, right? The hot take here version is like, there's no way I will do some insert stupid thing here. I will walk from here to Ashburn. Stares at Chris Russell.
I was about to say, then you'll be like Paul Pierce where you really have to walk.
Paul can get a wheelchair. I would be like that would be one of the most surprising things that I could remember covering in my career if they traded him. I could see a holdout. I could see more likely a hold in where everybody says the right thing and eventually something gets done. And I don't want that to happen, to be clear, because I do think that there is an effect on kind of morale. Like we saw it last year with the Bengals. Like, yes, there's a play rustiness, but it's also just like, dog, we're really like the vibes were so good last year. Do you want to ruin the vibes? Do you want to get to training camp and have this question lingering? Do you want the press conference that Dan Quinn has the day before, or Adam Peters if he holds a preseason press conference? Do you want those questions? And like Dan can handle them. This group of players will handle them probably just fine. Like Bobby Wagner's dealt with this stuff in his career, I'm sure. Maybe not with him personally, but like teammates, which is exactly what he'd be doing here. Jaden's super mature. Debo's probably like, really? Is this stuff chasing me around? Like, I know I did it to myself a couple years ago, but Ayuk last year, like, what the hell, man? But so much of what went right for this team last year was not dealing with that stuff. And it was so refreshing because, like, yes, this is far more regular course of business NFL stuff, right? This happens with teams over the course of time. Good teams, competent teams, championship teams, bad teams, incompetent teams. Like, contract disputes are part of sports, and specifically part of this sport because of how fragile the athletes are relative to the game, right? Obviously, the athletes are not fragile, but the game makes them fragile, the physicality, etc. And the careers are short, and so it's just understood as a player, you get every dime you can when you can get it. That has to have a price, and I kind of think if Terry's representatives are trying to use that as leverage of a price, like that's kind of, It's weaponizing a good thing in a way that makes me uncomfortable. And like, I wouldn't want to do business with you. You have to, because what are you going to do? Go to Terry and be like, hey man, sorry, you got to fire your agent. He's asking for too much money. And Terry would be like, that's what his job is. Sorry. But like, he's difficult to deal with. It's like, it's not my problem. Like, figure it out. That's my dude. Like, and that to me is like where this stuff gets really complicated, and it's tough. Like, I have a lot of empathy, sympathy, whichever one is the better use here, for everyone involved here. Like, they're all highly paid. They're all highly compensated. It's not like I'm like, oh, cry a river for Terry or his agents or the Commanders. But like, this is a fraught situation. This stuff is hard. It's why you have agents, by the way, is because like, as someone who doesn't have an agent, if I were to go into CK's office and be like, I want more money, it's a lot easier for him to have the conversation with my agent and be like, if I had one, to be like, we think Craig is worth X. And versus like having to tell me to my face and then be my boss afterwards, right? Like, that's hard. Like, will Adam and Terry have the same conversation and the same level of love they had last year after a contentious contract dispute? You hope so. Depends on how good the agent is of shielding the client to be like, we're working on it. And, you know, they really appreciate you, but we don't have the number we want yet. Versus like, he says you're an awkward catcher of the football. Whatever conversations are having. Like, these relationships require trust. They require finesse. And from, I think, a lot of the reporting around Terry's reps, like, they're not always the easiest to deal with on some of this stuff. What that means long term, I don't know. But like, that's kind of, I think, where we are right now with it all.
I mean, all right, so you want worst case scenario, like, in terms of like, you'd be shocked if he gets traded.
Stunned. Like, floored.
Where would you be in terms of, you know, a holdout or hold in if the deal doesn't get done ahead of training camp?
If he wants to do it, fine, but like, that thing's got to be done well before the first preseason game. Like, at that point, we're talking like, it's a real distraction. It's a real problem. It's hanging over. Like, we're having to rethink parts of our offense. Like, Terry's an amazing football player.
Yeah.
You can't just plug in someone else. Again, EPA, which there's a lot to EPA. Estimated points added. And by the way, when you score 13 touchdowns, your EPA is going to be high because you have added a lot of points. So there's no longer even the E part. It's just points added as opposed to estimated points added. But like, he had the second best EPA of any receiver in the NFL last year. And it's not the only thing. His catch rate over expected was, oh God, once we get out of, I sorted by catch rate over expected. And Bo Nix was the first name that came up. So hold on. We're going to have to sort receivers here. Qualified receivers only. And catch over expected. Third in the league. Behind Thielen, St. Brown. Like, that tells you he's doing stuff other receivers wouldn't do. That's worth a lot of money. I don't think he's going to stop doing it this year or next year. And 3 years from now, when he's 33, maybe. That is kind of, I think, what they're probably trying to understand. And maybe that's where the disagreement is. So, but yeah, they got to get this thing done. Otherwise, their offense is just not nearly, like, they built up their offense to be a super strength, and it's not without him. It's just not. He's too good. Team Terry, I guess. But, like, also, you're not worth 40. You're not worth what Jamar Chase is worth. So I don't know what he's asking for. Tell you what, 301-230-0980 is the phone number. You can call. Or, Lynnell, I saw him floating around. I think he's now waiting for us as opposed to barging in mid-segment. So I think Lynnell is going to come up next, but also we can take some calls. 301-230-0980. We're talking Terry with you on The Hoffman Show. the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980. You can now listen to the show on iHeartRadio and tune in as well. We still take your calls all the same places. Really, one place. 301-230-0980 is the phone number. We're talking Terry McLaurin. By the way, Lynnell not going to be able to join us after all. He's dealing with the actual work thing, so we won't even, Anthony, we're not even going to make fun of him. We're just going to say, good luck, sir, out there doing your thing. 5 o'clock, we are going to get an update on the RFK Stadium deal from an unlikely source. We're going to have our friend Steven Goff, who is the Washington Post's soccer writer, on the show because he co-wrote a piece with Nikki Javala, our other friend, in the Post today about some more Commanders Stadium news. So if you don't know immediately the ties between the soccer world and the Commanders Stadium, we'll fill you in. Goff will have the latest coming up at 5 o'clock. But we're talking Terry's contract now. Again, the number 301-230-0980. Let's start with Ray. Ray, you're on the Hoffman Show. And Anthony, I think this computer's messed up, so if you can pull up Ray, thank you. All right, Ray, now for real, you're on the Hoffman Show.
All right, how y'all doing today, man? How y'all doing?
Doing good, Ray. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, of course. Man, I just feel like we are thinking about this too much. Like, this is Terry McLaurin we're talking about. The guy that's been on the team, he's never complained about nothing. He's had every quarterback in the woodwork throwing him the ball, never complaining, still producing. He's gonna get paid. You know what I'm saying? I just think we just need to relax and just let it happen. I think we good. There's no way we trading Terry, man. There's no way.
Yeah, Ray, I agree with that part. It's just like, what's the number going to be? When is it going to get done? And frankly, what else are we going to talk about? It is worth noting, right. And I think this is part of it, right? I will acknowledge our role in the media that it's the middle of July. This is the biggest story that's out there. And so even though there's nothing new, it's like it's pretty easy talk radio fodder. I have tried not to go to this well a ton because I am, generally speaking, Ray, with you. I think it's going to get done. It makes too much sense not to for all the reasons that you've said. And again, them trading him is so unfathomable to me because of what he's meant to this franchise and what he even meant to the team last year. And I think that's the differentiator for me is it'd be one thing if he's not their guy. Like, he became one of their guys. They verbatim said that last year. Like, Dan Quinn went out of his way to be like, yeah, Terry's one of my guys now. Like, I love Terry.
He's my guy. Exactly.
Right. They're not. So, if as an organization, you trade, quote unquote, one of your guys against what he wanted, what does that tell everyone else in the locker room? Like, there's a chilling effect there.
Exactly. It would shape the whole organization. There's no way. There's just no way.
I agree.
I can't see it.
I agree.
I can't see it, man.
And so, Ray, I appreciate the call and generally agree with what you just said there. I do think it's worth mentioning / acknowledging, like, for those of us that were like, yo, chill out, this thing got done in July last time. That last time with a different front office, of course, and at a different stage in Terry's career was July 5th. These things tend to get done this time of year, in part because some of the people waiting on deals are franchise tagged. That is not Terry's case, and I don't know what this year's is. I remember for Cousins all those years ago, it was like always around July 15th. It might have been July 15th. 2017, Craig cannot fathom the fact that 2025 Craig will not have that date just emblazoned into his brain with permanence and clarity forever, because that was how I spent so much time this time of year, was chasing, hey, there is no news on Kirk Cousins and his contract again. So yeah, it's the kind of thing where it just makes too much sense that it's going to get done. But even if it gets done in like early August, like, what damage was done to the relationship? And that to me is like the lingering question, right? Is even now, let's say we have breaking news 10 minutes from now and we go, hey, Steven Goff, sorry, dude, the stadium stuff's really important, but we got to go because Terry McLaurin just signed an extension. Maybe that happens. Maybe he signs before the end of the show, which now would be very funny and make me look clairvoyant. Is it all water under the bridge? The way Terry operates? Probably. I think that there would be, especially with a couple of weeks to go till training camp, he probably signs it on the day that he gets back. He wouldn't, I guess they have DocuSign now, but like sometimes guys would like wait till training camp to actually sign the deal because they can do it in person and they have like they at least take the picture, right? So Terry gets back to Ashburn the night before training camp. They sign the contract, take the picture, put it out on social media, release the announcement, the whole deal. But if that's the case, there's probably a ton of good vibes and you're fine. Has there been any bad blood, though? Has there been something said that's gotten back to Terry? Or has Terry said something in a moment of frustration that's got back to the organization? That would be what I would be curious about. My guess, very much so, no. Not the way that this organization wants to do business, not the way that Terry wants to do business, and hopefully his agent has managed this very well as well, and that's the case. I'm sure we'll be talking about this more throughout the summer. Again, the phone number, if you need it in the future, we're out of time now, but is 301-230-0980. Still to come on the show. Well, actually, Anthony, I got a question for you. I was going to ask Lynnell. I was going to let Lynnell is now the self-proclaimed assistant producer of the Hoffman Show, which was news to me. But I was going to let him decide which Take Command segment we played today. We got one on, it's our mailbag day. So we have one on verbiage, and we have one on shotgun versus under center stuff. Which would you prefer today?
Maybe.
I would say
when you say shotgun versus under center, are we talking about pertaining to the Commanders?
Yes,
or in
and
general?
Also in general. I will say if you're going chronologically. We did the verbiage one, which was also in part about the Commanders and how they use short play calls and get away with it in a way that other teams have not. We did that one first in the show. I don't know if that affects your vote one way or the other, or if you're just like, no, I really want to know about the shotgun versus under center thing because the Commanders run a ton of stuff from shotgun and not that much from under center.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay. All right, so that's coming up at 5:30. Anthony, as the lead and really only producer of the show, just producing the show. When we get back, though, Steven Goff from the Washington Post. Why is the world's biggest women's soccer tournament looming over the Commanders Stadium deal? And is it actually looming over the Commanders Stadium deal like some involved want us to think that it is? Goff worked with Nikki Javala to find some answers, and he'll tell us what he found next. the Hoffman Show. We're all on the team at 980. Always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube, too, at the Team 980. And, of course, we are now live on iHeartRadio and tune in as well. A double dip for our top story today, but we only need one man to do it. It's time for Not My Beat.
Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not My Beat.
Steven Goff is the soccer writer for the Washington Post. We've had him on the show before, but my friend Steven Goff, we have never had you on to discuss the Commander Stadium, an update coming from an unlikely place. Have you ever partnered with Nikki Javala on a story before?
That is a great question. I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, there's a first time for everything. I mean, someone's got to keep Nikki company. 48 left the beat, so that sucker left her out all on her own. No, you guys did a great job answering one of the key questions that I have really been trying to ask, frankly, everyone who's covering this story and anybody that I know that has information, which is the mayor's office, and to back it all the way up here for the audience, obviously, we are bearing down on the July 15th imposed deadline by the mayor's office and the commanders where their exclusive terms, or the exclusivity in the term sheet that they signed expires. July 15th is that drop-dead date. They are claiming, as City Council ponders the Commander Stadium deal at RFK, whether or not, or they are claiming that if there's delays past that the stadium can't be done in time. 2030 is the season they would like to open, and then they also, obviously before 2030, would like to get a bid in for the 2031 Women's World Cup, which is where Steven enters the equation. And my question has always been, Steven, is that a real deadline or is that a bargaining chip? That is the question you and Nikki sought to answer. What did you find?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's certainly a bargaining chip, and they would like to get things done sooner the better, for the purpose of an NFL season at home and a new stadium in 2030. But, in terms of it threatening the possibility of hosting Women's World Cup games in 2031 and also the Rugby World Cup also in 2031, that they have to get it done now, that doesn't seem completely accurate. There's a risk, of course, the longer it goes on, you have to take into consideration environmental delays, construction delays. There's always delays, right? And so the farther you push this, the greater risk there is of losing out on certain dates. But yeah, there does seem to be some time to work this out politically in the right way and still be able to open for NFL season 2030 and remain in contention for international sporting events.
You noted in the story that FIFA has in the past said, okay, we will grant you this bid and you can win the bid with a stadium that does not exist yet. I mean, on a much larger scale, like the Men's World Cup in Qatar, like they built that literally in the middle of the desert out of nothing. There was no infrastructure there. There was a longer runway on that as well, and that was fraught with issues, but we don't have to go down that path right now. For FIFA's purposes, for the actual pressure of, because obviously, like 2030 is before 2031. So from a timeline standpoint, the football season is more important. But FIFA wants to feel confident if they're going to give a bid to a city or a part of a bid to a country that includes a significant piece in a city, that the stadium is going to be ready. So what kind of confidence do they need to be able to give FIFA in terms of a timeline that it won't affect the U.S.'s ability to get that 2031 World Cup?
Yeah, no, there's no set date when a stadium has to be up and running for it to host World Cup games, whether it's men or women. Again, obviously you want it done sooner the better, and you want to have you need to conduct events there. It's not going to be just finish it up and play your first event in the World Cup. So, yeah, I mean, you want a few months of a runway to show that it's ready to go, and FIFA takes over stadiums for World Cups. If, for example, MetLife Stadium is hosting the 2026 World Cup as well as the championship game, FIFA takes over the stadium, a couple months before the tournament actually starts. So, yeah, it has to be ready for those types of things. But yeah, the guidelines from FIFA for the Women's World Cup 2031 show that the host country, which is all but certain to be the U.S., has to have 8 stadiums in the bid, 5 of which already exist. And so that's your starting point. And if one of the 8 or more than 8, it has to be at least 8, is an incomplete or just conceived stadium in Washington, that's fine, because there's lots of stadiums in this country that are ready to go from day one.
Steven Goff, reporter for the Washington Post, with us here on the Hoffman Show. So I maybe this is wishful thinking as a DC resident, Steven, but I would think that we would be in heavy contention to host the final in 2031. Brand new stadium. They obviously, as much been bantied about, the 2026 World Cup that is coming next year for the men is not coming to DC at all because of the current stadium situation. And we know that, like, for instance, Mark Ein has been public, and he was part of the bid committee, to say, like, if we had a game here, like, we would have also hosted massive fan fests. And, like, there's a huge amount of missing revenue for the city that is involved in that. So one, is that wishful thinking, or is that like a very realistic possibility of the final? And two, as the mayor's office and the commanders make a pitch to city council on the economic viability of the stadium, how real is the economic impact of hosting a Women's World Cup final in 2031 in the United States?
Yeah, no, so to host the final or to host the opening game of the tournament, the stadium has to hold at least 65,000. And no coincidence, the new Commanders Stadium is suggested to be at least 65,000. So they will meet or plan to meet that standard. And then you get into, where do you want to host a final? Now, traditionally, World Cup finals around the world are held in a capital city, but Washington's not automatic by any means, because you have so many major cities and major stadiums in this country. So, for example, Los Angeles has hosted 1994, 1999, and 2003 World Cup finals, men and women. 2026 will be in New York at MetLife Stadium. For 2031, it would, if there's a stadium plan and it's part of the bid, Washington would certainly be in contention to host the final. It's no slam dunk, because New York and LA will both have had experience hosting the final. You would certainly think Dallas would try to get in on that too, with the Jerry Jones venue. So there's a lot of competition. Washington would certainly move high up the list, but there's other games too. I mean, if you don't get the final, you could get a semifinal. You could get the opening game. You could get, a U.S. match in the group stage. There's a lot out there to get, and it's not a championship game or bust by any means.
So with that, there's always a ton of consternation about the economic impact of these types of tournaments.
Right.
What realistically is the economic impact to, and I guess, the mayor's office is going to have one number.
Sure.
Some like Andy Zimbalist, who I'm sure you're familiar with his work, when the Economist, like, he's going to have a different number. I'll just ask you, like, from what your research is on these types of things, as someone who has covered many World Cups, men's and women's around the world, like, how real is the economic impact that city council should be considering here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an economist. I don't know. I'm not an expert on these things, but certainly there is an economic impact because of the number of people, the number of officials, the number of sponsors, teams staying here, hotel nights, transportation, food. It's a lot. It depends on how many games you have. Also, the men's tournament and the women's tournament are different. I think a Women's World Cup here, most of your fans are going to be domestic. Still means people have to travel and stay in different cities, but there's not as much long-term foreign travel for the women's game as there is in the men's. It's just part of the evolution of the women's game. It's getting bigger, but it's not as big as the men's yet. So you have to weigh that as well. Yeah, it's hard to put a number on it. It depends on how many games you get too. I mean, if you're hosting 6 games stretched out over 4 weeks, people are coming and going, and so there is an economic impact, no doubt. What that number is, I think you would get a different number. You have different numbers from 10 different people.
All right, last thing on this topic, Steven, and then I would also like to ask you about the U.S. men's team's appearance in the Gold Cup final over the weekend. So we'll go 2 for 1 here with Steven Goff of the Washington Post. There have been the occasional rumble about a partnership of some sort between the Washington Spirit and the Commanders on something with the practice facilities and the stadium, because Magic Johnson is the common link in both ownership groups. And we know that Michelle Kang is an aggressive businesswoman, saying that in a complimentary type of way. Have you heard anything as these latest plans have started to unfold of whether the Spirit are looking for a new full-time stadium, a training facility that's not in Loudoun County, where, all due respect to folks in Loudoun County, it's just very far from where they play, that the Spirit have been a part of any of these conversations around the RFK site?
Yeah. Well, let's start with the training facility. Right now, the Spirit leases DC United's training site in Leesburg. It's the location is one thing, but the bigger issue is just to have your own space. And I think at some point, Michelle Kang will build her own training facility. It's kind of ridiculous right now. DC United's place, it's DC United, it's the Washington Spirit, and it's DC Power FC, a new women's team, which DC United has a part ownership. They're all crammed into one little building. It's kind of silly. So I think ultimately the Spirit will find a place of their own, but you gotta find the right place, and you gotta commit the money to it, and start that project up. So yeah, I think that'll happen at some point. I mean, the Kang and the Commanders have had it seems like a decent relationship over the last few years. I remember seeing Jason Wright at Spirit games and in Michelle Kang's suite. So there always has been a communication there. The Spirit leases or rents out Audi Field for their home games. DC United owns the stadium. There have been some rumblings about the Spirit not being perfectly happy with the situation there, and the DC United has put up a hard bargain for the contract. Michelle Kang is also a very ambitious owner, and I think there's part of her that looks at Audi Field and says, hey, it's 20,000 seats. We can do better than that. And so the Commanders Stadium, are they going to sell 65,000 seats for Washington Spirit games? No, they're not. But more than 20,000 is certainly possible as the league and the team grows. So that probably works into her equation. And it certainly gives them a little bit of leverage maybe with DC United saying, hey, you know what? We're going to go into partnership with the Commanders, and we're not going to be in partnership with you. So we'll see where it goes. But, I think it certainly opens up some opportunities for the Spirit. And if not for, all their home matches, maybe, occasional games or international matches at a bigger location with more ticket selling possibilities.
As a season ticket holder for the Spirit, the idea of going to a domed stadium where there's air conditioning in August, let's say, that sounds great to me. I'm sure, knowing what the press box is like at Audi Field, I'm sure that sounds great to you too for any Spirit games that you want to cover. It's quite toasty in there. Steven Goff with us, of course, a great soccer reporter working for the Washington Post here on the Hoffman Show. All right, to your typical day job, not the hey, let's go write a story with Nikki about the Commanders' new stadium and the soccer impacts of it. Part of your job. The U.S. men had about as poor of a build-up period on and off the field as you could think of having going into the Gold Cup. Everything seemed to be going wrong. There was bickering within the Federation. There's bickering between Christian Pulisic, his parents, and former players. Like, it felt like a nightmare, Steven. And then they made the final. How much damage, like how much, I guess, reputational damage was repaired around the U.S. men's national team a year out from the World Cup? And then also internally, like, did the dynamics change at all as people were like, oh, okay, we won some games here, found a little confidence? Was there any real steps taken, or was it beating a weaker field with some mediocre performances, losing in the final, and everything is actually more so where it was before the tournament?
Yeah, I mean, if the U.S. were at full strength or close to full strength, they would be either the favorite or the second favorite in the Gold Cup. That's been the tradition. They were not at full strength. They weren't even close to full strength. The thought was, they might get to the final. More likely, they'll lose in the semifinals to Canada, who's been on an upswing the last few years. But then Canada got upset in the quarters, and that cleared the pathway a little bit for the U.S. They got through the final. The best team won the Gold Cup, and that was Mexico. The U.S. gave a decent performance, but the talent level was not high enough to win the Gold Cup. Overall, they did okay. I think they outperformed what we thought how they would perform. I think they showed some good qualities. Most of all, I think in the big picture, they played with heart. They showed that they cared, and that had been an issue over the months or even over the past year with this team, and certainly with some of the bigger names, that the body language wasn't good. They didn't come to each other's defense in tight situations. It just didn't look good. And in this tournament, they fought for each other. They played hard. There was, you can't compensate fully for a void in talent. And in the end, that showed itself because Mexico was the best team. But I think the fundamentals in this team are much better now than they were a few months ago. There are guys who are really committed, really wanted to prove themselves. And Pochettino sent a message, and I think a clear message, by leaving some of these big names behind, by showing who's in charge, and letting these younger players, for the most part, show what they can do. Some showed well, some didn't, but at least they got the chance. They played hard. And I think as Americans, you want to see a team that gives its all. And in the past, it didn't seem like this team was. This tournament, they did. And I think that's a good step.
So moving towards 2026, what does that mean for the construction of the team when you're selecting from the full complement of talent, but do not want to lose that heart, dedication, and togetherness that drove them to the final of this tournament?
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating when they come together again in September for a couple games, a couple friendlies against South Korea and Japan. Who does Pochettino call in? I think he's going to analyze this Gold Cup and say, look, we didn't play the highest quality opponents in the tournament. We take that into account. These guys didn't perform well. They're just not good enough. We appreciate the effort they made. We appreciate their availability, but they're just not good enough. There'll be other guys who make the cut, so to speak, and do get called in. I think there'll be a lot of them. And then he has to decide who does he reintegrate from that base of players who did not appear at the Gold Cup for many reasons. Some were injured, some needed a break. The Pulisic situation wasn't great. Does he invite Christian Pulisic back in September, or does he play hardball and say, look, you need to make more of a commitment to this program, and until you do, you're not being invited back. So this is all part of it, and I'll be fascinated to see come Labor Day or so when he announces that 23, 25 man roster, who is on it. It's going to be an enlightening moment
for sure. The Pulisic piece extra fascinating because he is far and away, it seems, the best American player in the pool, and he also for a long stretch seemed to be the one carrying the team, and no one else was coming with him. And then now it's like, hey man, are you going to get on board? And he's like probably looking around like, wait, I thought I was on board. What does on board mean? So that's going to be a fun one to watch.
And the reality is they're going from this point on, they're going to play much better teams. And this Gold Cup group, they got destroyed by Switzerland in the last tune-up before Gold Cup.
Right.
And the team was still coming together, but you're going to play at the World Cup teams that are 10 times better than a few of the teams you saw at the Gold Cup. So he's going to need to get his more talented players engaged and committed, and reinserted into the lineup and into the roster.
Steven Goff writing about it all. Washington Post. You can check his and Nikki's story out on the stadium stuff as well. WashingtonPost.com/sports. Steven, always great to chat, my friend. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Steven Goff with us here on the Hoffman Show. When we get back, more Commanders, very different region of the Commanders world. On-field nerdiness. You ever wondered why teams go out of shotgun more, and especially in the last decade, than they used to, and what advantages there is to shotgun, but also what advantages may have been lost from going under center? For a team in the Commanders that has used both effectively, but is in gun like 90% of the time, seems like a relevant question, and it was asked to us on Take Command. Logan and I answered it. We'll let you hear our answers next. 1 hour from now, Sidney Johnson, Mystics head coach, had a chance to chat with him after the big win today. 6 o'clock, we get into some more Commanders talk, which also is what we have for you right now. Take command. Oh, Anthony, look at what day of the week is it?
Tuesday.
And what time is it?
5:30.
This is what we did during the season. People know this is the time for that thing. It's a Take Command Tuesday. Mailbag edition. I asked the question in the mailbag. In fact, it was 2 questions that got answered all at once. So without further ado, here's me and Logan from today's fresh new episode of the Take Command podcast. Take Command Fast Mailbag edition. Craig Hoffman here, Logan Paulson there. We got 2 questions that go together, Logan, on shotgun versus under center, which obviously is a big discussion point in the Commanders' offense. The first, if you will, from John, who says, "Hey guys, love the podcast. Mailbag question stemming from throwback clips of games I'll watch from time to time. I noticed much more under center snap drop back passes rather than throwing from the gun. I know this was the norm 20 plus years ago, but even 10 years ago, it was much more common. Other than marrying the run and pass on play, are there any perks of straight drop back passing under center rather than the gun, as it seems like under center passing is slowly dying off? Is there anything teams can gain in timing and protection that they may not be as strong from the gun?" So that's part 1, shotgun under center passing. Part 2, from Michael in Monterey. "Hey, Craig, when discussing improvements to Jaden Daniels' game, I only hear about how great he is currently, and any improvements would be negligible. While I agree he is a top 5 quarterback in the league, there's one glaring weakness I'm observing while rewatching these games. Taking a shotgun formation. Can you discuss how taking snaps from center can enhance the offense / Jaden's skill set, or whether or not this is a conducive strategy to what this offense wants to do? Thanks, Michael." So I would just say up front, I disagree that Jaden has a weakness in that he is not taking snaps from under center. He has done it. And I also don't even know that, we're going to discuss the benefits and drawbacks of gun versus under center. So the idea of being a weakness, I don't know that I agree with that, but it is a very interesting concept generally, obviously within the Jaden Daniels offense, Logan. So that, preamble out of the way.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, we could probably talk about this for 2 hours. This is in the football community. This is it's not like a huge from a philosophy standpoint. It's interesting what it gives you, right? Yeah. So let's just start with under center, right? You get the ball in the quarterback's hands immediately, right? And he doesn't need to take his eyes off the defense, right? Because he's locked in, ball snapping directly into his hands, right? So as I'm taking my drop, I can keep my eyes on the defense. I can keep my eyes on the safety, as opposed to a snap where my eyes have to track the football and then reestablish defense. Kind of at the core, the simplest thing. Now, then why would you throw the football so much at a gun? If center, you're also closer to the rush, right? And so that has some negative drawbacks too. So for example, if a team is running double A gap pressure, right? Before it used to be under center and the back used to have to do a superhuman hero act to sprint around and dive and get in front of the way. And now I see a lot of teams just straight check the gun. We'll get in gun, move the back up, and it allows us to get away from the rush a little bit better and allow us to establish the protection principles clearly. That's from a drop back passing standpoint. So I think the reason you see the gun stuff isn't much because of the quarterback. Obviously there's a comfort because that's the way the college game has gone. But right. I think what you're seeing is it helps the protection more, right? You've already established distance immediately. I actually think in some ways, some quarterbacks will say it's harder because again, they have to take their eyes off the defense, but at it from a passing perspective, to me, those are the pros and cons. And now there's so much more stuff we can talk about here from a run game standpoint, but we'll just start with that.
Right. So the other thing I'd be curious to talk to different quarterbacks about is kind of their ability to take in the pre-snap, right? If you can get the wide view of being back however many yards if you're in pistol versus regular gun, sure. Yards off the line of scrimmage, can you just see the field better, or can you see it fine by standing up at the line of scrimmage and kind of taking in that more narrow view? So what does your pre-snap picture look like? And obviously that then plays into the college game stuff, because if you've been taking in a shot pre-snap view your entire life, you're being asked to your vantage point, that could have some drawbacks. You might miss some things, may not understand certain things. Could you always like go back and then walk up under center? Yeah, but depending on, going back to the last segment, the timing of your offense and all that kind of stuff, that gets complicated. I think the other big thing from gun versus under center is, in terms of drop back passing, the other obvious huge thing here is footwork. Like the time of 3 7-step drops with or without a hitch versus the shotgun time, and the complexity and the intricacy of that, I think, is much harder under center, or at least it's harder under center. That is, the offensive line blocks to it, expects the quarterback to. And if I tell you, you have to try to be 8 yards away from the center, and that's where your pocket, like the center, is to set up. And you're just walking, like you're just a dude, and there's not actually a rush. I'm just telling you, to close your eyes and walk 8 yards. Like, could you do it? Or you have to look up and walk 8 yards. You can't count the yard markers on the field. Like trying to guess from, and it's closest to the 5 yards away than 8 yards away. So like the point being that the length of your steps, the timing of that, not tripping over your own feet. It's just more stuff that can go wrong in the footwork versus shotgun, where it's like, okay, yeah, I have to catch the ball, but then I'm not moving nearly as much. The timing is is a little easier, and where I post up to kind of have my central hub of the pocket is easier for me and for the offensive line.
Sure. I think that's a great point. I mean, when you're coaching, like, as I've coached quarterbacks under center, it's hard. It's very, very hard. It takes a lot of reps. And I think like so much of the high school games, so much of the college games done in the gun, I just think there's a much greater comfort level with being in the gun, like with the footwork. Like, there's some technicality to it in terms of, rhythm. Where's my plant foot? How do I get to, if it's for timing purposes, is it 3 and a hitch? Is it, there's still some nuance there, but it's definitely not as complicated, right? You could almost survive with a quarterback with very poor footwork from the gun, because again, they're so far away from the rush. I think what it goes back to is when you're dropping, right, you are negating the rush. You're navigating, getting depth away from the rush. And in the gun, you just have time and distance. And so the margins on footwork is important. Like if you watch those old clips of like Joe Montana, like that, working their drop, like it's like a little bit dicey. And like you got to get out of there and get some depth. But now you already got it.
Fast.
Yeah. So I think that's a great point. And then I think the other element that I think is important to acknowledge is just like how much flexibility now, because of the college game, you have from the gun. Like you can do a zone read from the gun. You can't really do that under center. Like it plays more like a triple option, like a dive, and you're running to the end. I mean, if you do under center, RPOs, you can't really from under the gun. You can do like pre-snap read. Again, like think about the way offenses are constructed, how they've built-in methodologies to make it challenging for the defense. I think about the Miami Dolphins, and do from the gun, they basically a version of the single wing, which is the gun. Like you'll see some of the backfield actions they get to where the quarterback turns his back to the defense, fakes a jet motion behind him, and then turns back and is ready to throw the football off a play. And so they've been able to kind of diverse backfield stuff as well, just providing eye candy for the defense that used to just be kind of done under center. But now, again, like people are smart. They're trying new stuff, team better. And so like not help the quarterback with protection, maybe help with to Craig. It'd be interesting to talk to someone about that, but getting more ways to challenge the defense that are less impactful on the back's body. Because again, you can do some of that stuff from under center, right? Like I can run triple option from under center, right? I can run some zone read from under center, but that quarterback's going to take a huge shot from the gun. Again, I have time and distance to kind of see the read, make a decision, protect myself if I have to. So again, that's where I think the gun is, again, it's changed dramatically the shape of football, but I don't think it's it's essential the same way that it used to be, right? And are there advantages to running under center? Absolutely. We can talk about those in a second, but I do think just look at the way the game shifted comfortability of the quarterback. Think about what it does from a protection standpoint. Think about what it does from an RPO and read standpoint. Like, it just makes sense to be in the gun a little bit more.
Yeah, I'd also be curious to talk to like some older quarterbacks who did a lot more stuff under center. You talk about the eyes dropping to catch the football, which obviously is true. I want to quarterbacks, like how long into the league do you? Well, one, like definitely there's guys that like barely even look down. You know, obviously they can pretty quickly get their eyes up. But also, like if you're under center and you're dropping back, are you watching the rush? Like, are your eyes actually up? And how much are you actually able to take in those initial steps, because you're behind all these 6'4" offensive linemen, your head's bobbing up and down. Like that's a technique thing. Like, can you know, if you play baseball and you track a fly ball in the outfield, like if you're really to hold your head steady and track the ball, or if you're tracking a football, right? Like the ability to hold your head steady and get a clear view is really hard at full speed. Well, if you got to bust your butt to get out from under center, and your head might be doing a little bob up and down, like how clear is the picture you're actually seeing of linebacker or that rotating safety anyway in those first few steps, versus like I have caught the ball, my head is steady, like I have my base underneath me in the pocket. So I actually would, having never played quarterback, I don't have an answer to that, but it is the kind of thing that I would be curious about to talk to. In terms of schematics, though, that's where I think it does get really interesting. And there certainly are a lot of like on paper, under center makes a whole lot of sense for a lot of reasons. What are some of the ones that you see offenses maybe losing in this gun heavy environment versus when they came into the league and there still was a ton of under center stuff in the NFL?
And obviously under center stuff is coming back into vogue slightly with the lighter boxes and things like that. You know, I personally think the sweet spot is pistol. That's just my personal opinion. But what I will say is like your ability to run play action passes and get the back downhill. I think that's the other thing. Like the way you coach, you know, like a zone read or even a zone from the gun is they got to take 3 lateral steps the running back does in front of the quarterback. And those 3 lateral steps are times where I'm not attacking the line of scrimmage. So like, you know, like one of my least favorite things, I understand it's part of the game. I understand it gives you the RPO. It gives you the zone read. It gives you some of these pre-snap bubble looks where we can really stretch the defense out. But the thing is, it really makes it hard for the back to like get downhill and out. So I think about like a good example is like Derrick Henry, like his first couple of years in Tennessee, a lot of gun runs. I think you see him as an ineffective player. And then as he gets to more under center, more outside zone, more Kyle Shanahan-ian type, Mike Shanahan type stuff, Kubiak type stuff with the outside zone, where he is in the dot at 7, attacking downhill, one cut runner. Like, I don't care if you get in the way of that dude and his shoulders are square, like he's falling forward for 4. So I do think it makes the run game significantly more efficient. Also from the dot, you get more flexibility in terms of the direction of the back. Like, for example, in the gun, if the back's standing on my left, like this is something that you're always negotiating, coach, and when you're watching film, like you should check this out. 9 out of 10 times that ball is going away, right? He has to run across the quarterback to get over there. Now you're starting to see some people diversify where they run across and kind of counter back, or we got a zone read, but the run index shrinks dramatically, right? It's like you can run 4 runs maybe. From the dot, man, shoot, we can run power, counter, inside zone, outside, trap, wham, whatever you want from the dot. So I do think it adds a lot of flexibility from run scheme. And then on top of that, like the play action stuff is so much better. Quarterback's turning his back to the defense. The ball is hidden. So now all of a sudden the defense can't disperse the way it needs to in coverage until it knows where the ball is at. And that's why, again, you see some teams now from the pistol or from the gun turning their back to the defense again to kind of find some of these wrinkles to kind of simulate the downhill running attack that and the advantages it gives from an action standpoint. But again, it's not quite as good. So like that's why to me, from the dot, under center, you get all of this flexibility, right? You get all of this kind of dynamism from a play action standpoint. And that's why I think it's still valuable. And I think, you know, a lot of teams still utilize it.
For sure. And I think that the play action boot game specifically for a quarterback like Jaden Daniels, like if you can get that edge, which it just has to be enough because he's so fast. Like what that gives you as a, you know, okay, worst case scenario, the stuff that we want down the field isn't there, and Jaden's out on the edge running with a head of steam. Like, can we get 5 yards and have him scamper out of bounds? Like that's a successful play. So there's that element. And then I think the final piece that I'll say on this, Logan, is this is also why ball handling is so important. And this is very minutiae, kind of skill stuff, but it's really, really important. And you see it when a guy's got it, the way he can manipulate a defense. I think like Lamar is excellent at this, and it really accentuates his skill set. Like he will turn his back on the defense and kind of give the ball in his stomach, empty hand, handoff, back is totally turned. And when that back that he's fake handing off to is Derrick Henry, if he can get that defense to bite, and then all of a sudden he sprints out to the outside. Jaden's done some of that stuff too. The ball handling on some of the jet sweep action, like Tua's ball handling is incredible. It's part of what makes that offense sing with him and why they're so bad when anyone else is running. So is it as important as accuracy? Is it as important as, some of the other quarterback attributes that matter down in, down out? No. But can it be a way to take an offense to the next level and to generate some explosive plays? Yeah, if you can get that fooling of the defense out of the gun in the way that more quarterbacks probably can do based off of just in total under center, I think that's another like really, really, really important element. And I know it's something that Cliff and this quarterback room spends a lot of time on in practice during their individual periods.
Yeah, like you said, and I think the thing is everyone says, oh, well, then we have to incorporate, like one of the guys was like, he's not under center, like he's not.
Is that
good.
a weakness?
Yeah. Weakness. I just think you have to problem solve. If you want to be in the gun, you have to problem solve it. I think Miami's a great example. Like they're one of the more fun gun run teams to watch because of how good the ball handling is. There's a lot of trickeration associated with what they do just to get eyes in different directions, and that affects the play action pass. Like we talked about the motion over the top. I mean, they motion over the top, then Tua drops his inside hand, hands it to the back underneath. They run counter back the other way. Like it's a spinner, like high school spinner offense. And like, that's awesome. Been able to cultivate that ball handling. They've invested a lot of time. They've identified the weaknesses of being in the gun, and they've helped mitigate that. Right. But I do think like you said, I think Cliff understands there are elements of that to this offense, but that's not the priority. We talked about how it's so important that they play fast and they get into different looks. And then in short yardage situations, I do love that they get under center. And how you alluded to, like they've been able to run some trick plays and maximize fourth and shorts because of Jaden Daniels' ability to get under center, hand the ball off to the back or boot or whatever we're doing. There are pros and cons to both. I don't think any of them indicate that Jaden is a good or bad football player. It's just what the direction of the offense is and how they choose to execute it. So I think that's where I kind of come down on it. It's like, yes, there are limitations, positives to both elements, but it doesn't reflect on positive or negative play for the quarterback position.
Right. John, Michael, hope we answered your questions. Why can't people stop comparing Jaden Daniels to RG3, including a fellow contemporary of RG3? We'll get to that coming up. Or someone played at the same time, same position as Robert Griffin III. We'll get to that coming up at 6 o'clock, and why I think it's worth bringing up and reminding folks as Jaden is about to enter his second season, but it is not something I think you should worry about. We'll get to that at 6 o'clock. Also, I have a game for Anthony, which I just realized I have not. Well, I think I can still maximize it because there's an audio component, and I never pulled the audio component. But I'll figure it out. I'm a decently smart human being. Beyond that, Anthony, headline, ESPN.com. Oh, and also Sidney Johnson coming up at 6:30. Talked to him after the game today. Great chat with Sidney, the head coach of the Mystics. You'll hear it at 6:30. But headline, ESPN.com in our short segment here for a little bit of fun. I mean, this is not very fun. It's actually very serious, but it's a funny headline. You ready for this?
I am.
Bengals Joe Burrow, home burglary altered Batmobile plans.
What in the world?
So remember on Hard Knocks last year, he talked about he was going to buy / did start the process of buying a $3 million fully functional replica of the Batmobile, a.k.a. I'm sure it's not fully functional because I think the Batmobile has some weaponry on it, and I don't think you can buy it. That's like not street legal. But like it had an engine and you could drive it. So Joe Burrow was eventually going to show up to a game in a Batmobile. You remember that?
I thought he did already.
No, he wore. I think he wore some Batman stuff. I think he dressed up as Batman for Halloween. But
okay.
He didn't have the full-on Batmobile yet, but he was working on it. Well, you also remember last year that Burrow's house got broken into as a part of that high string or that string of robberies against high-profile athletes.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah, really bad, really serious. Not trying to make fun of it. It's just a hilarious headline when you put it that way, and everyone's okay, thankfully, so we can laugh about it a little bit now. But Burrow talked about it on the Quarterback Show from Netflix, which dropped today. So if you want to go home and binge watch Quarterback, you can. But he was like, yeah, my mind was on other things at the time. So he canceled the order and was like, never mind. And after all, Joe Burrow is a no-go on the Batmobile.
No.
I know. Like, I feel really bad. Like, dude got his house broken into. That sucks. He had a relationship that he was in the process of feeling out, I think. I think they were in the just talking phase. Although the social media influencer and model, who I believe is still dating, was at his house and, called the police. And, like, that's really scary and is a lot to deal with if you're fresh into a relationship or not even into a relationship yet. And, like, I think it's easy to make fun because, like, Joe Burrow's a NFL quarterback and she's they're 20-somethings and whatever. But, like, they're real people. Like, celebrities are real people, too. And while, yes, the depths of their problems can be different, and some are very silly and sometimes self-imposed. Like, I thought, Burrow had a great quote on it where he's like, my life is very public and I got really comfortable. And, there's some parts of your life that just don't need to be public. And, like, your house is one of them. And I agree with that. So on a serious note, that really sucks. On a funny note, headline, ESPN.com, home burglary altered Batmobile plans.
They won with the headline, but I'm saddened by the news.
Yeah, just a bummer. All right, when we get back, why was a former MVP quarterback talking about Jaden Daniels and RG3 in the same sentence? Anthony, we're going to be 100 years old. Well, I guess I'll be 100 and you'll be like 95. And we're going to play that hour opener of the amphibious ambidextrous. And that's how we're both going to die, is we're going to die in a fit of laughter when we play that back.
Yeah, I can always count on a chuckle every time I hit that.
It really brings a smile to my face every single time. Final hour of the Hoffman Show here on the Team 980. Always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And when people say things where I'm like, I don't really have a ton of, not want to say respect, but like, I don't really care that much about your opinion. And it's something that's I think is very silly and has been talked about a lot. I don't typically like to play it or give it attention. Cam Newton's kind of in the media game now. And like, to be clear, Cam as a player, like, was one of my absolute favorite players. He's said some things in the last couple of years. He's gotten into the commentary space about football, but also some stuff off the field that I'm like, don't love that. So like, level setting here on the Cam Newton of it all. But dude was a former number one overall pick and was an MVP. And he had Wale, DC's legendary rapper, and obviously enormous Commanders fan, on his podcast. And they were talking about Jayden Daniels. And, of course, the last time there was a sensational rookie year from a Commanders quarterback, they were not called the Commanders, and the quarterback's name was Robert Griffin III. So there was talk about the crossover in between those two. And here's how that conversation went.
Here, Jayden Daniels could be a potential one-hit wonder?
Nah.
What makes him different?
I think he loves the game too much.
But speak to me like from a D&B.
He loves the game too much. You got people that don't love the game. Mm-hmm. They love what comes with the game. That boy loves the game. Like, he just loves the game. Like,
seen a lot of success as a rookie season.
I worry about that with our most like CJ struggled a little bit the second year, but
yeah.
But the line was a little.
But I'm gonna say it in this way: there's nobody who had the game in the chokehold like Robert Griffin III. but RG3, bro, I have to tip my hat to him.
One of the GOAT rookie seasons of all time.
No, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I see that same thing happening for Jayden, and as you know, being in that community, do you fear that?
I mean, I think you always fear, like, we got PTSD of not winning for so long. So it's like we don't even know how to have good things. We don't know what it's like to be like having 5 primetime games this year. Like, we don't know. Like, so it's like there's a reason why. You know what I'm saying? And this is the kid from LSU. But so we like, damn, like, okay, when is the honeymoon over? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's easy to think like that, but I gotta believe in, like, the new organization and new GM. They got plans for the new stadium. So, like, we going in the right direction. We trying to right them wrongs from all them years.
I appreciate Cam asking the question in the way that he did, and I thought Wale's answer was great. I can't believe that's the sentence that just came out of my mouth. Robert and Jayden could not be more different as people. And that really is where it comes down to. I think Robert liked football. I don't think he loved the game in the way that Jayden loves the game. I don't think he loved leadership in the way, like, I think Robert liked the idea of leadership. I don't think he ever actually did it, just if I'm being, like, totally blunt about it. And the way I know that is just listen to the way people talk about him. Listen to what it was like to be around him. Listen to the stories at the time. Listen to the stories that people tell you now. And they're very different than the way people talk about Jayden Daniels. And that's before you even get to the environments in which they existed, but just what they seem to value as people. I think Robert liked being the center of attention. I think Robert still likes being the center of attention, which is why he social media is the way that he social medias. And Jayden would play football in front of nobody. I think he loves the fans. I think he laps up those moments. But how often did we remark this year how cool, calm, and collected he was? He loves to compete. He loves to prepare. He likes doing the 5:30 a.m. thing. And it's not I'm doing 5:30 a.m. for show. It's I'm doing 5:30 a.m. because that's when I can get my work done. And there's enough of it that I need to do it then so I can also participate in this other thing with my teammates and be in this team meeting and be attentive here and do this other thing and take care of myself away from football and get it all done every single day, because that's what it means to be a professional. And the quarterback position, it just is hard to do it all because there's so much to do. The relationship he has with Cliff, the relationship he has with DQ, that's the next step. Very different than the relationship that Kyle had and Mike had with Robert. And part of that is who Robert is versus Jaden. Part of that is who Kyle and Mike were versus who Dan and Cliff are. I think Dan and Cliff are much warmer people. I think Kyle has talked about, I know he's talked about it with people that he's coached over the years, like Logan, but Kyle has also publicly talked about, like, he was a young guy trying to still establish himself in the league at that point. And he was also a much rougher around the edges type of person. He was much less compromising than he is now as a head coach. I think Kyle has grown a lot from the interpersonal skills when you hear people talk about who Kyle was versus who Kyle is. But Robert dealt with Kyle in 2012 and 2013. Very, very different. Obviously, Mike at that point was towards the end of his, or ultimately was the end of his career, of what is a Hall of Fame caliber coaching career. And Mike was in some ways a player's coach, but was also old school and demanding in other ways. And I don't know how well that meshed with Robert. DQ is demanding, but I don't even know that I go demanding. DQ has high standards, and he holds people to them in a very different way that works very well with Jaden's personality. And then you get to ownership, where Josh Harris and Jaden Daniels, I'm sure, have a fine relationship, but it is not a cozy one and an empowering one in the way that Dan Snyder was with Robert Griffin III. And so the environment that all creates is very, very different for multiple years of success, not to mention from like a more the general manager side of it, the roster building of what Robert Griffin III had in 2012 and 2013. Or I think the better comparison is is this one also came up, is CJ Stroud last year. The coaching, the schematics, and the roster all took steps back. I mean, Bobby Slowick was a nightmare last year as the offensive coordinator in Houston. The O-line coach was bad. Like, they have Bobby Johnson, who was awesome last year, and Cliff clearly has shown how effective he is at creating a good environment for the quarterback. And also, not to mention, like, you added Laramie Tunsil and drafted another first-round offensive lineman. You get Debo as an easy butt. Like, they've upgraded the situation, and they will probably also be able to put more on Jaden's plate in year 2. So I get why people ask this, and I appreciate that Cam's question first was, like, are you concerned? And then also, like, what I'm really trying to get at is, what's the DMV? Is there PTSD? Yeah, of course there is. I think somewhere in the back of all of our minds, there is a, my God, what, we've been through this once. Could it possibly go wrong again? And it could for, I guess, some reason. But I do think it's worth pointing out, like, Robert Griffin III wasn't ruined by injury. Robert Griffin III was ruined by, ultimately, some of it was circumstance at the time, but his career at large was ruined by his own approach to the game. And maybe his own skill level. Like, maybe that's as good as Robert was, and once the NFL caught on to what he was, or he lost the skill set due to injury, like, he had no way of adapting. Maybe that's just who he was as a player. The mental processing was never there. And that's possible. Like, it's really hard. That still doesn't mean, like, Robert, I think when we watched him on television, in between the awkward jokes, like, he was very, very good on television as an analyst, because he can speak the game well, but speaking it versus doing it from the pocket are two different tasks. And with Jaden, I think you're just talking about a very different athlete. I think you're talking about a very different professional. And while, yes, will he have struggles? It's not going to be just some great ascent. I mean, even I pulled up Cam's numbers for comparison. Cam Newton, outside of his MVP season, never really got better. He threw for 4,000 yards once in his career. It was his rookie season.
What about 2015?
2015 was a perfect thing for him, but also, like, his numbers outside of the touchdowns weren't really that much different. Like, well, I guess I just told you probably because I told you the touchdowns were different. But his rookie season, he threw for 4,000 yards, 60% completion percentage, 21 touchdowns, 17 picks. His next best season yardage-wise was his MVP season. He threw for 3,800 yards, almost 60%, 59.8, so slightly lower completion percentage. 35 touchdowns, 10 picks. And then his second season was probably was his next best passing season. He had 38.69 versus 38.37 in the MVP year. 57% completion percentage, 19 touchdowns, 12 picks. He had other years of 24-13, 18-12, 19-14. So, like, even with the aberration touchdowns to picks, he was roughly a 58 to 60% passer for between 3,300 and 4,000 yards. And outside of the 1 year, 19 to 25 touchdowns and 10 to 15 picks. That's who he was every year, including his rookie season. He never really got better. And, like, if Jaden Daniels never really gets better, I think he'll have an awesome career. And I think his year last year was better than any year that Newton had, but the MVP season. So, like, I hope Jaden gets better. I hope he continues to improve, because then he's going to be one of the all-time greats, and how much fun would that be? But I do think it's an interesting question coming specifically from Cam Newton, considering, like, Cam worked really hard. Cam was a good worker, was known for that, cared a lot about the craft in the game, liked a lot of the stuff that came with football too, but as hard as he worked, the statistics at the end of the season didn't really change that much.
Yeah, I think him asking the question, do you fear this could be a possibility, given, you know, us having a quarterback that's had that trajectory where he burst into the scene and then went flat. So I think that's more so what it was, but I think in terms of everything you've outlined, as far as like the differences between JD5 and RG3, I do find it hard to, like, you know, come to that kind of, you know. Yeah.
I'll put it this way. I don't know how many times more in my life, in my career, I'm going to be able to say this. I'm with Wale. Not a concern. When we get back, a very silly game. show. We're on the Team 980. Always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Streaming live on YouTube, too, at the Team 980. Also now, of course, streaming on iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio as well. And I'm debating, Anthony. Will we play this game now? Or we save it for... I think we can play it now. I think we can quickly play this thing now. There was a once famous moment in this silly radio show that we had Anthony guess, was this a quote by Jalen Hurts or Taylor Swift?
And I think I did okay.
I think that's probably about your cap. Yeah,
it was okay. Painfully average. Subpar.
Yeah, that... I wonder how many views that's got on TikTok now. I just thought about that. Let's never know what's going to come out of the TikTok machine. Let's make sure
you knew the Swifties, they knew everything.
678,000 views on TikTok.
Nice.
Yeah, it's our most viewed ever.
Well, we got to top that.
Yeah, the one that is in second place is our guy Shane from Oxon Hill, the greatest call in the history of the show.
Of course.
I will say, the fun I had at Media Day about her mic'd up moment with Sonia Citron is up to 71,000. So
okay,
I've got a couple over 100K. And the point is, a lot of people have seen Anthony do, frankly, worse than he actually did in this game because our guy Tony Squares did you dirty in the edit. So with that, from literally, I believe, the same account, Anthony, that brought you Jalen Hurts or Taylor Swift quote, it is now time for Charlie XCX or Lewis Hamilton.
Lewis Hamilton.
Well, I have to give you the quote first.
Okay.
But we'll see. So the question is this a quote from 7-time Formula One champion, knighted Sir Lewis Hamilton? Yes, he's actually been knighted. Or pop star, global sensation, and brat, Charlie XCX.
All right.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
These I feel like, I don't know, maybe a little easier, but we're going to find out. Quote, and every year I've made so much music, and I'm like, why don't I come up here and perform? Is that music superstar Charlie XCX or Formula One's greatest ever driver, Lewis Hamilton?
Charlie.
And every year I've made so much music, and I'm like, why don't I come up here and
Apparently Lewis Hamilton has a music-making hobby. That's 0 for 1.
Oh, my. The thing is, that one was obvious. Like, you put it right in front of me, and I
kind of did. Kind of did. All right, quote number 2, Anthony. Is this Charlie XCX or Lewis Hamilton? It's not really about winning.
I'm going to second guess myself. All right, I'm not. I'm going to go Lewis Hamilton.
It's not really about winning.
You should have second guess yourself. That's Charlie XCX. That's
0 for 2. God.
You are 0 for 2. You just have to believe that you are unique and you're powerful and beautiful and strong. Is that Charlie XCX or Lewis Hamilton?
It sounds like Charlie, but it's Lewis.
You just have to believe that you are unique and you're powerful and beautiful and strong. And
that is complete with inspirational music.
Yes, sir.
That's Lewis Hamilton. That's why he's knighted. He's an inspirational figure. Next up, everything has a purpose. Everything I do has a purpose. Is that the well-tuned athlete, Lewis Hamilton, or Charlie XCX?
It sounds like it would be Lewis, but it's Charlie.
Everything has a purpose. Everything I do has a purpose.
Hey, look, I'm getting good at this now.
Yeah, I wonder if there's going to be a curveball. I'm not going to lie, Anthony. We're now at the point where I'm playing along with you. I didn't get this far into the swipe. If you believe in something and it's an undeniable belief, then anything is possible.
Hold on, repeat that, por favor.
Si, senor. If you believe in something and it's an undeniable belief, then anything is possible.
Charlie.
if you believe in something and it's an undeniable belief, then anything is possible. And
that was obviously Lewis.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, they've alternated so far. This hasn't even been this has been so not hard.
It has been. We have been alternating.
All Let's see if it continues. I won't have this moment again in this exact same way. That does sound like something Lewis could have definitely said towards the end of his time at Mercedes.
Yeah, I think it's something Lewis would have said, but I think this is Charlie.
I won't have this moment again in this exact same way.
Right. I think just the alternating, the vibe. Let's see if they
is that what it is?
I don't know. I am waiting to see if there's a curveball with you because again, I didn't go this far in the slide. I just was like, this game rocks. Let's do it. Although it has been much less funny this time around, but still kind of pretty funny. I don't trust people that are not animal lovers. Charlie XCX or Lewis Hamilton.
It sounds like something Charlie would probably say, but it's Lewis Hamilton.
It's definitely something that Lewis would say. He's a huge animal lover. His dog Roscoe made his first appearance in the Ferrari garage this week.
I don't trust people that are not animal lovers.
That was actually on Hot Ones, is where he said that. Which, by the way, if you haven't watched Lewis Hamilton on Hot Ones, good episode. I also feel like Charlie XCX, I can't remember if she's been on it, but I feel like she would be an awesome episode of Hot Ones. Actually,
Charlie.
That's really banging. Charlie or Lewis?
Say that one more time.
Actually, that's really banging. Actually, I think that's something Lewis might have said on Hot Ones.
It sounds like it too, but I'm going to go Charlie.
Actually, that's really banging. Gosh.
It was a food show. It wasn't Hot Ones, but that was Lewis Hamilton.
So they throw a curveball in there.
They did. Last one, Anthony. Jump into the driver's seat and put it into speed drive.
See, this sounds like it should be Lewis.
And so you're guessing?
But I'm going to go Charlie.
Yeah, this definitely sounds like a song lyric. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think, when you talk about cars and car seats and putting into drive, you would think it's Lewis.
You would think it'd be the Formula, but the other people don't really get to drive Formula One cars. So there's that too. I actually, in all honest to God truth, Anthony, would have done perfectly on that test.
Oh, I would have.
We know. We saw you not. When we get back, Mister's coach, Sydney Johnson. Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube, too, at the Team 980. Of course, we're also now streaming daily, every single second of the show on iHeartRadio and TuneIn as well. Earlier today, went on a little field trip, did Anthony and I. We went to the Mystics game at Eagle Bank Arena, where the Sticks were able to defeat the Chicago Sky, despite a strong performance from Angel Reese. Had a double-double in the first half, and then ultimately was able to, they were slowed her down enough in the second half, they were able to hold on for the win. After the game, got a chance to chat with Sydney Johnson, the Mystics head coach, and here was that conversation. With Sydney Johnson here at Eagle Bank Arena after the Mystics, probably a little for you, too thrilling win over the Chicago Sky. I want to start a little broader, though. We've talked a lot about sisterhood, and so this might be a little bit of a different question, but like, you're a male coach, coaching in women's sports, preaching sisterhood. How much do you think about how to present that, and how has that landed with the players?
Yeah, I just know, like, basketball is all the same in terms of, like, you know, really caring for your teammates and playing for each other, being very mindful that this is women's basketball. I want their sisterhood to be, you know, on point, like just pour into each other, celebrate each other, challenge each other, support each other. And so, yeah, I might, you know, I'm a guy and I get it, but I really want them to have the experience that they deserve. And wins or losses, you should feel good about being a Mystic and competing with each other and building some lasting relationships.
How have you been able to cultivate that? These seasons are hard, they're intense. So how do you, I know it started in training camp and everyone always feels good in training camp. Then you get into it. How have you continued to cultivate that? And because it's, you know, watching this team play and then hearing them talk, like, it seems like it's landed.
I think something that's very much probably not understood about me is that like I want to win. I want to win badly. Like what's the point? But at the same thing, it's not necessarily like win at all costs. You know what I mean? Like let's have the experience that we want. Let's, like I said, I'll just be repeating myself. So let's have that sisterhood. And oh, by the way, when you have it and it's authentic, like, you're in a better position to win games. You know what I mean?
The dirty secret is it actually does help you do the winning.
That's it. So it's not about not you know, prioritizing winning, but it's like we want to go about this thing a certain way, day in and day out. And then if we bust our tail and we do our homework and we look out for each other, guess what? Wins will come.
Sydney Johnson with us here on the Hoffman Show. The battle between Angel and Shakira, very, very intense. And Shakira, obviously, she's pretty intense in general. How do you try to keep her, it's not, I don't want to say like in between the lines, but like making sure that emotion is channeled in a way that is productive and doesn't get sidetracked into defeating herself?
Yeah, I'm putting a jinx and the whammy on me right now because I actually think I've been able to coach Kira. Like, she's really good with that so far, you know what I mean? Like, she competes, she lets the refs know a little bit of something, and she lets the other team know something, but she reels it in pretty well, pretty effectively. I do think every now and then I might rest her, you know, let her come out and let her cool her head, but I've been very impressed with how she goes about it, and I think for me, as long as she's playing hard, she's allowing the game to come to her and play through her, I have no issues because I want her to compete. I want her to stand her ground, and she's done a very good job of that so far.
You talk about managing players. I've had a chance to follow up with Slim on this post-Media Day. Haven't had a chance to catch back up with you yet, but she kind of joked on Media Day about when you told her about being a leader on this team that, you know, she just kind of got it. There wasn't like a sit-down conversation of like, hey, this is your role. Yeah. You just kind of kept mentioning it, and she's like, oh, I see what you're doing here. So how have you worked with her, and how have you seen her leadership evolve throughout this season?
Yeah. There's been more conversations as we have gotten into the season. But from day one, it was like, no, like you're going to be in the front of the line. Like, there's no two ways about it. And then, like, yeah, we'll figure out our rhythm. And we have. You know, there's things that she's asked me for more or different. I've done the same. But ultimately, you see a game like today where we're in an absolute dogfight, and we're challenged to play the right way, make the right passes, also be aggressive, manage our emotions. and Slim was right there, you know, at the front of the pack. And so that's what I'm asking from her. I think points and assists and accolades will come, and they should. But when we can rely on her in the toughest moments, that's got leadership written all over it.
Sydney Johnson with us, head coach of the Washington Mystics, of course, on the Hoffman show. Your two All-Stars, ask about them real quick before we say goodbye for the day. Sony, like, I think it's actually, like, today's a perfect example. She's got 13 points, 8 rebounds, and there's also these long stretches where it feels like she's not involved, and yet you look at the box score afterwards, she's got 11 shots. It's second most on the team. Yeah. So how do you manage her as, not so much as the personality, but as the player, to know, like, she's incredibly impactful. We want to get her involved, but also she's going to make sure that she's involved with the things that she does. Like, how do you walk that line as a coach?
It's not an easy one because she's so selfless, like, to be honest. Like, she's just thinking, like, if a shot comes to her, she's taking it. If not, if there's even one thought of like a contest or something, like, she's off of it and trying to find somebody else. Like, she's just so mindful. So yeah, we have to intentionally draw up a few more things to get her involved, but that's kind of on the offensive end. She is a ball mover. Defensively, she does so much, like, it's ridiculous. So it's hard to say, you know, even with 11 shots, which is not bad, but defensively, she's so involved in everything. And then her emotional stability, that's a big part of this game. She's so even, so professional. So it's, man, we're blessed, and I'm really pleased for her to get the nod from the coaches because she's very well deserving.
Yeah, I could tell she was really upset with the call today because she, like, shrugged her shoulders and gave a half an eye roll, and I was like, oh my God, she must be really ticked. As far as Kiki, you guys, but I mean, really for both of them though, I think that was something that struck me watching earlier in the year. It's like, if they don't score, you don't have a chance. Yeah. To put that on rookies, and for Kiki and Sony to an extent to embrace that, what's that been like to coach?
Yeah, and I think that was somewhat true early, you know, as Shakira was working back in, and you know, Slim's kind of been there all season long for us scoring wise. But you're right that the two of them give us the best chance, especially when we can spread it around with all four of them, and you got to do that against good teams anyway. So yeah, there's some weight there. All I would just say is, you know, I think Rick Barry said this, and I hold this dearly, is like, pressure comes to those who are, you know, I'm paraphrasing, that are unprepared. And I just think these two rookies, Sonia and Kiki, they put a lot of work in to be ready for the moment, whether that's on the court, whether that's film, whether that's listening to the coaches. They're sponges. So I guess I would say it might feel like a little bit of a weight, but they want this. They want this moment. They want this opportunity. They're thrilled to be here, and we're elated to have them.
Sydney Johnson, good luck Thursday against Vegas, and then next week in LA, and then enjoy a little bit of time off for the All-Star break.
Yeah, we got a few more games to come, but one at a time. Just appreciating the day.
They got Seattle as well, and then the break coming next weekend. Sydney Johnson, thanks again for his time after what was a hard-fought win for the Mystics against the Chicago Sky. We'll talk a little bit more about it as we wrap up the show next here on the Team 980. Wrap it up here on the Hoffman Show. Tomorrow, what do we have tomorrow, Anthony? So Wednesday in the middle of July, baby.
We got ESPN top position ranks.
Oh, yeah. Bill Barnwell did a list ranked every team's tight ends, receivers, running backs, etc. See, I actually haven't. I know they're not one. I know they're not last. Where are the Commanders? Curious to see what he says. So we got that.
We also might do what's next for the Nationals.
Yeah, we should definitely take a look at what's next for the Nationals. They'll have their first game, as we've been mentioning, what's trending without Rizzo and Davey tonight for St. Louis. But Barry Svrluga, our guy, wrote a great column in the Post about not just like what's next from a baseball sense, but like what's needed on a macro level. And I thought it was really interesting. So we'll dive into that tomorrow for sure. Anything else particularly?
Our alternate uniforms get unveiled tomorrow.
Those do get dropped tomorrow. So I'm sure that'll be a lively topic of conversation.
Also, Mike Rizzo will be on the junk one final time.
Yep, 9 a.m. tomorrow. So definitely check that out.
And then
we will play you some of the best if you don't get a chance to listen in the morning.
Yeah, and then either we'll do Wizards tomorrow or Thursday before you leave on Friday.
Yeah.
But yeah, they play Friday, so
yeah,
I would imagine one of those days.
Oh, I need to reach out to them about something. I'll do that tomorrow. So yeah, we'll talk Wizards Summer League. We'll talk about the Cam Whitmore trade. We haven't done that yet. So we'll get some Wizards in the show tomorrow. That's all tomorrow. Today we spent the morning with the Mystics at the game. Great seats. Shout out to our guy DJ for that. And a hard-fought game. This league is so silly sometimes. The officiating was, we talked about that off the top. Like, it wasn't great. Angel Reese was particularly peeved, and she's coming off, basically saying, "Find me," but the officiating sucks. So she already entered with a point of view, if you will. I don't think it changed the game. It was equally bad both ways. But one thing I will say about Reese is, like, she plays so damn hard. Like, it is not a mystery why she has a chasm-sized lead in the league in rebounding. She's also, how tall is she listed as?
Probably 6'4".
Angel Reese, what's her listed size? She's listed as 6'3". That's a joke.
Nah, she ain't no 6'3".
Angel Reese is 6'5". Like, she's straight up 6'5". And she's long, and the way that she anticipates, the intensity, the battle and the physicality between her and Shakira Austin. She also loves the hook. She getting away with it now. If the refs ever catch on, the way she hooks players, rebounding and on offense, where she hooks a defender and tries to draw a foul. But like, she's good at it. She's a smart player. And it took a little bit to navigate that. She had a double-double in the first half, 10 and 10. Luckily, there wasn't a whole lot else going on for Chicago, and so the Mystics entered halftime with a lead. Brittany Sykes had some really nice runs where she was able to, be an aggressive attacker. Sonia Citron, it seems like every time the game hits a lull and the Mystics need something to happen, she is like, I will grab this rebound. Now I will go make a play. Like, her knack for stuff. And that's why I love the conversation about Sony with Sydney that you just heard, unless you just tuned in, but with head coach Sydney Johnson, who said, like, yes, offensively, we probably could draw some more stuff up for her, and we have to make sure she's involved. But defensively, she does so much that I actually wonder if some of the offensive, I'm going to go stand in the corner, is just like, I need to catch my breath. Like, I'm going to let someone else handle it. And Aaliyah Edwards had a really nice spot in the first half. She's been playing really well over the last couple of games. She always plays well against Chicago. She averages 13.5 points per game against Chicago in her career coming into today, the highest by far against any other opponent. So whether it's the, go ahead, compare me to Angel, because she was drafted one pick ahead, or she just likes playing against Angel, or whatever the reason is. The trade rumors, obviously, a couple last week, like, she's played really well since then. She's responded to the pressure. And so I think this was a great team win. A lot of people contributed well, and it was a fun game to watch. And, Chicago, I'm sure I know they're ticked. Tyler Marsh, their head coach, had to be restrained afterwards from going after the officials. But at the end of the day, like, game shouldn't have been that close, and it shouldn't have been that close because Washington, Shakira Austin missed 8 free throws. She makes more free throws. It's not that much close of a game. So Chicago can't be like, oh, we lost because of the refs. It's like, You were in the game because the other team missed a bunch of free throws. So that was kind of, to me, the summary of the day.
Yeah, we also didn't realize Camila Cardoso wasn't out there, even though she is 6'7", 6'8".
Yeah, I forgot. She's with the Brazilian national team.
Yeah.
So that's very helpful. But, I mean, they didn't need her. Elizabeth Williams was awesome.
Yeah, she was playing well.
I think she dropped 20.
But, yeah, I think Sony, to be honest, anytime she shoots the ball, I think it's always a good shot. Like, I don't care what. Like, I know they had like a 3-on-2 fast break, or maybe like a 4-on-3, and she gets the ball in the corner, and it's in, rhythm, and she pulls up. I'm just like, I'm fine with that shot. Like,
yeah, whenever Sonia can't take a bad shot.
No, she can't.
I'm just like, fine, whatever. If you thought that was a good shot, I trust your basketball IQ. Oh, you were doing a circus trick and doing a backflip? Like, sure, fine. I'm sure there was a reason.
Yeah.
Like, and to have that kind of trust in a young player, big time. Also, by the way, speaking of Aaliyah Edwards, shout out, Lily turns 23 tomorrow. I forget sometimes how young she is because she's just so poised. But yeah, Aaliyah's birthday's tomorrow, which she made sure to mention at the podium. So shout outs to Lily. All right, that's mostly the show, except for one final thing.
Real things.
We're not going to be sucked this year.
Real people.
5-11, not very good.
Said into real microphones.
The culture is actually damn good.
All righty then. Let us go into the folder of goodness and let us reach in. Let's see what we got. Oh, we got a Luke Cornett. Luke Cornett was with the Boston Celtics. He is signing with the San Antonio Spurs, where he will wear the number 7. Why are you wearing number 7, Luke Cornett?
7's a big number of covenant and fulfillment and order and the faith, and so that's kind of what called me to it. And
now, if I just pause the clip there, you'd be like, why would you possibly play that in real thing? This is supposed to be a funny segment. Luke Cornett, please continue.
The secondary reason was I just hoped to be a third of the player that Tim Duncan was. Oh, love multiples, factors. Yeah, break it all down. Yeah.
Luke Cornett, one of the, and I mean this literally, biggest dorks on the planet. Said with love and affection.
Nah, that was actually hilarious.
He, I think he used to play golf all the time with our guy, or maybe it was Sam Hauser. Maybe it was both of them. Used to play with our guy, Drew Carter, Celtics play-by-play voice. Yeah. Cornett, I want to be a third of the player Tim Duncan was.
It's a bar.
It's a bar. It's also true. I would also like to be a third of the player that Tim Duncan is. That's our show for today.